Different's great, but being different for the sake of being different, I'm not a big fan of, right? If you just want to be different for the sake
technology
of it.
Technology, I would hide behind it.
And you start to hear some of their challenges, and yes.
Because it speaks to the core of who you are and what drives you forward. Because what makes you different is what drives you.
Connect your show. I'm Rob Genovesi, and I am flying solo today. My co-host and pal, Steve Spiro, he's on vacation. Some nerve of the guy. He decides to go to Mexico and leave me alone to host the show. But no, he well-deserved vacation. Steve's a hard worker. And if you're new to the show, and I hope you're tuning in every week, because we always got some fantastic guests, and today's no different. But, Steve and I go way back. Steve Spiro and I met probably about 27 years ago. Two introverted guys, two former shy guys who couldn't have a conversation or a normal conversation with anybody. And here we are much later. We've learned how to connect with people. We've learned how to build relationships with people. We've learned how to talk. We've learned how to do things and make things happen. Our paths diverged for a little while there, and Steve went one way, I went another way. But, like all good things, people who have some common interests, common goals, and have some similar mindsets always come back together. And we came back, reconverged, and now here we are. He asked me to co-host the Master Connector Show. He's been doing this for a few years, and I'm happy to come in here and do this because, like I said, we always meet great people. But this is about connecting. This is about becoming a way of being authentic with people. We're going to talk a lot about that because the people we bring on are real. I love talking with real people. But what we're going to talk about today is, we're going to be talking about grabbing attention through clarity. That's going to be the topic for today's show. And, the whole idea of clarity, I found that isn't very clear to people. As a brand builder myself, I teach clarity all the time. Clarity is one of the biggest gifts you can have in your life, because without it, it's kind of like you're driving down the highway and maybe the rain is coming at your car so fast you can't see, and your wipers can't even go fast enough to clear away the rain. So what happens? You got to slow down. You got to go to a crawl. That's no clarity. When you have clarity, say your wipers are amazing or they're going fast enough, all of a sudden it doesn't matter what the obstacle is. You can see clearly, you can move faster. Clarity is absolutely amazing. We're going to be talking about that today. Well, listen, this is the Master Connector Show. And this is not about, just hanging out and watching us. Hopefully, we'd like some engagement. We don't want you to be lurking out there. As Steve always says, we don't want LinkedIn lurkers. We want engagers. So we want you to let us know where you're tuning in from, whether that's a different state. Personally, I'm here in the suburbs of New York. I'm about 20 minutes outside of Manhattan. But wherever you're coming from, let us know in the comments where you're coming in from, because we always like to know where people are at. All right. Welcome, Yolanda. Yolanda, long time supporter of the show. Hey, Yolanda, good to see you. Yolanda's from Texas, so I love when the Texans come in the house. I love Texas so much. I love going down there. I got some friends down there. Texas is like its own country. So you call it the state, but I think it's like the country of Texas. All right, welcome, Yolanda. And as always, make sure you're in LinkedIn. Make sure you're commenting, making sure you're liking, make sure you're sharing. Share this out, because let me tell you something. The people we have on this show and the things we talk about are the things that people need to hear. You want perspectives from other people. With perspective can come clarity. And as the topic of the show, grabbing attention through clarity, everybody's fighting for attention these days. It's the thing that people want most. Is becoming a new currency, because the barrier to entry on social media is so low. Anybody can get on. It's free. You can be absent one day, and you could be hitting it and out there the next day. But what do you got to fight over? You got to fight over people stopping the scroll, listening to you for some reason. You've got to get them to stop and pay attention to you. Our guest today is going to be talking about some of that. This guy's unbelievable. Actually, I'm going to bring him on because flying solo today is not my favorite thing in the world. So I love to have people to talk to. But let me ask you all a question. Do you know anybody who's worked with Sir Elton John or Elon Musk? You know anybody who sent people down to see the wreck of the Titanic or closed museums in Florence, Italy for private dinner parties and then had Andrea Bocelli serenade them while they eat their pasta? You do now. This guy's quoted as the real-life Wizard of Oz by Forbes and Entrepreneur magazine. Steve Sims is a best-selling author of 2 books, Blue Fishing, The Art of Making Things Happen, love the titles, and Go for Stupid, The Art of Achieving Ridiculous Goals. Steve's a sought-after coach, top-rated speaker. He's given keynotes at the Pentagon and Harvard twice. He's co-founder with his son Henry of the leading community for creative disruptors, Sims Distillery. Please welcome to the show, Mr. Steve Sims. Hey, Steve.
Thanks for having me. How you doing, boy? Good?
Doing good, man. I'm better now because I'm pumped to talk to you. I know our audience definitely wants to hear from a guy like you, because I'll tell you one thing's for sure. We don't run across people who have done some of the crazy things you've done, right? Yolanda says, welcome, Steve. See, people are excited to hear from you. And I know you've met Elon Musk. Obviously, you've met Elton John. You met all these people. You've met Richard Branson. These are people who most of us, myself included, we read their books, we see them in interviews, and we're like, wow, these people are making things happen. And I myself, I'm always wanting to get around people who make things happen. I remember years ago, I was taught by a mentor. He said, Rob, there's 3 kinds of people in life. Those who watch what happen, those who make things happen, and the third one is those who go, what happened? And that was me. I was the guy who didn't know what the heck was going on. So let me ask you a question. I want first of all, I want our audience here. I want you to type in hashtag let's go. We want to get this going. We got great conversation. I want to get into it, but I also want to hear, type in next hashtag journey, because this is the part that is really key for a lot of people like Steve. Steve, tell us something. How do you go from a bricklayer to a bouncer at a club to a luxury concierge? How does that happen?
It's not as difficult or as kind of hard to explain as you think. Like all entrepreneurs, we see things differently. We're like Neo in the Matrix. We see something. We see the bad economy. We see a way of buying things cheaper. We see a great economy. We see a way of selling things to a wider audience. So entrepreneurs, we see things differently. I was a bricklayer from East London and I was poor. I was broke. I also had a poor mindset because everyone around me, they didn't have any money either. But I was aggravated. Now, being a big, ugly biker from East London and being aggravated, it didn't look too good. And I didn't get a lot of the conversations I wanted because I didn't know how to communicate. So I was aggravated, but I was also curious. I'm working like 6 o'clock in the morning or 8 o'clock at night on the building site. I'm working hard. I know how to work hard, but I got no money, got no future, and I got no hope. So where's the disconnect? We didn't have Instagram at the time to show us how inadequate our life was. We didn't have YouTube to be able to watch Tony Robbins' motivational speech. We didn't have any of that. But the entrepreneur in me knew that there was something out there. And of course, even then, I didn't know it was anything to do with being an entrepreneur. But I knew I had to have a conversation with someone that was better than me, someone that was successful. So I went out to try and have those conversations. And I'll tell you a funny story. I came out of a pub one day, and there was me and my 2 friends. We all had bikes. The bikes would start whenever they bloody wanted to. And I came out of this pub, and I saw this guy pull up in a new car. Now, in my street, if you bought a car within any of the last 10 years, that was classed as a new car. But this was like brand new, brand spanking new, just driven off the lot. And he gets out of this car and he's got a jacket on. Now, of course, my jacket's all leather because of the bike, but he put a jacket on. And then his beautiful girlfriend gets out of the other side. She's getting her jacket on before they go into the pub. And I thought to myself, that's my man. That's where I want to be. And I ran at him. True story. I ran at the guy. And I was like, hey, you, how come you're so wealthy? Actually, I think I used the word rich. How come you're so rich and I'm not? Now, it was a raw, aggressive curiosity that I had in me that I wanted to know the answer. I truly wanted him to go, hold up, Steve. I'll tell you why you're wasting your energy. I wanted the answer. What I got was this guy leapt into his car like a penguin onto an ice flat, and he just wheel span out of there because he had this big, scary biker coming at him with a crash helmet in his hand. And I learned then the curiosity was okay. The aggravation to want the answer was okay. My delivery was really off. So I went out and I started applying for jobs with a load of wealthy people, stockbroking, jewelry sales, security guards, luxury cars, anything that had any kind of affluence around it. I tried getting a job in it and I failed on absolutely everything. I became an expert at getting fired. And I even got the chance of a trainee stockbroker position in Hong Kong. Now, at that time, I was taking any opportunity. And I believe there's no such bad thing as kind of like taking risks and taking chances. And I was young enough to be able to do that. So I took the chance of this trainee stockbroker position in Hong Kong, lasted one day, and then I was fired.
Why? Why were you fired?
So they were recruiting. It was in London at the time of like the last few years of Hong Kong's ownership by the UK. And they were trying to set up a new office. And I actually went over with about 60 other people to be an intern at this stockbroker's position. And I must have somehow kind of got in there, as just one of the crowd. And when we got there, they realized I hadn't got any of my qualifications at school. I didn't have my trainee stockbroker license. I had nothing. So they literally went, we can't even let you on the floor. We don't know how you ended up here. I must have been a smooth talker or something. I don't think the recruitment officer actually paid attention. I think the recruitment team was just being paid for warm bodies.
Well, listen, I think that there's one thing that's at hand there and everything I hear. And look, you and I come from different places. I'm not a scary guy. I was never a scary guy. And I wasn't an aggressive guy. Not that you're scary, but that aggressive wanting to know, wanting to learn. See, my point of origin was I knew that everybody was smarter than me. I didn't even think I could do that. I think you had the hunger and probably the belief. And here's the thing, your entrepreneurial fibers were already there.
Yeah.
That's why you were able to go from those things you did to the things you do, because my bet is the reason you get fired is because you're probably unemployable.
Yeah. And bearing in mind, we're talking about the 80s and the 90s when being an entrepreneur was a bad word. Do you remember, like, you're from New York, I'm from East London. If you met someone in the 80s and you went, what are you? And they went, I'm an entrepreneur. You knew that guy was selling stolen car audio out the back of his car. That's what being an entrepreneur was. Now we revere them as though they're like gods and they walk on water. But being an entrepreneur, it ain't easy. And it certainly was scorned upon in the 80s and 90s.
Yeah, for sure. Listen, I want to get onto something else, because here's the thing. As I started out in talking at the opening of this show, for all the things that I wasn't, see, I was the introvert. I was the guy who couldn't talk to people. I was the guy who had no confidence. I was the guy who had no skills. I had to learn a lot. But after everything I learned, the one thing that I didn't learn, honestly, Stephen, I don't even know if you can learn this, but the one thing that I believe was a gift by a certain point in my life in my 40s, I think I was just like, listen, this guy's been losing. Let me give him something. And he gave me clarity. The clarity is the thing that made the difference in my journey, where I was able to finally go. It was like everything I had learned for the prior 15 to 20 years all of a sudden culminated in this one thing. And I went, I know exactly what I have to do. Tell me about today's show's topic, which is grabbing attention through clarity. Tell us what clarity is.
So first of all, I gotta let you know I'm an introvert. Okay, getting ready for this show, I've got to get psyched up and I'll relax afterwards. And the dumb thing is, I travel the planet, literally the planet, talking to corporations and companies and events on the skill and art of communication, which is funny when you think about it. But it just shows you how bad the planet is getting at communicating. You see, here's the thing. There was nothing wrong with my question. I really wanted to know the answer, but my delivery was terrible. But wasn't it crystal clear? I asked him a direct question. He knew the question, but he was scared of my delivery. So I learned very early on that when I was dealing with these people, to be as direct, to use as little words as possible, and that to avoid confusion. You see, there's a great statement that was given to me by my old buddy, Joe Polish. And it said there's a difference between being easy to understand and impossible to misunderstand. And I realized that in today's world, we're actually breeding confusion. Oh, you can't say that. You can't look at this. You can't dress that way. There's so many parameters that we think constrain our ability to communicate that instead of actually doing something about it, we don't communicate at all. Now, I've gone the other way. I'm like, well, hang on a minute. This is me. If you like the way I speak, let's chat. If you like my style, let's hang out. If you want to be disrupted and do something different in your business or your life, let's get it on. But there's no fence sitters in my world. Right. And I believe that there are three people in the planet. There are those that love you. I guarantee you some people watching this video are going to go, I love this dude. It's not being cocky. They just resonate. We can relate. We can hang out in a bar. We'd be good. I really love this guy. Guarantee you there are people in this that go, do you know, I don't like this guy. He's too brash. He's too forceful, whatever. But there's no one confused. There's no one on that fence. And in today's world of marketing, communication, conversation, we're trying to please so many people that we become vanilla. We dilute who we actually are. We dilute what we stand for. We dilute what we believe in to the point that the person's now going, I don't get this person. I don't know where this person's coming from. And no one confused will ever give you that credit card.
Now, here's the thing. So audience, Steve's talking about clarity here. This is not talked about a lot. I promise you this is not talked about enough, I should say. And so the clarity is going to be the key. And one of the things that Steve is talking about that speaks to me, Steve, as a branding guy, this is what my life's work has become, is about branding. What you said about how you show up and how you speak, and that by the way, Steve's an introvert, which confounds most people, right? Because everybody thinks that like, if you can talk, if you're outspoken, if you're a little brash, that you're an extrovert. Not so. It's an energy thing. So here's the deal. Having clarity and being who you are. I went through a phase, Steve. I spent 25 years in corporate America. Wearing the mask they told me to wear. Why? Because you have to behave a certain way when you work for corporations. Otherwise, they kick you out. So I had to do that. By the time I left and I'm onto my, I don't even like to say entrepreneur. I'm not an entrepreneur. I'm a business owner. I elevate entrepreneurs because it's a whole nother realm for me. But when I went out on my own, I was still wearing the mask. So I was putting on the corporate mask. And guess what? I got no attention. Nobody wanted to talk to me. Why? You said it. I was vanilla until I discovered the clarity, which allowed me to go, you know what? And something else you said, doing your own thing. Like I said, why do I have to play by their rules? I want to win. I'm going to make my own rules. I'm going to put on my own uniform. I'm going to build my own damn field so I can win. And you know what? Like you said, if you don't like me, that's okay, because there's plenty of people who love me, right? And so that's what we're talking about. Not everybody's going to like Steve Sims.
Right.
Like plenty of people that love him, right?
Yeah, no, you're right. You don't want to please everyone. You want to please one person. You want to have one conversation. You don't want to have a million connections. You want one conversation and then have another conversation, then another conversation. So in today's world, we're actually fighting to connect. And let's be serious. You were saying earlier, the kind of you've got to understand what people want, and you've got to understand the conversation. As a speaker, and I speak, as I've already said, all over the planet. Again, I get nervous beforehand, I get nervous afterwards, but I speak all over the planet. Here's the dumb thing that I was taught that I hadn't paid attention to. If you ask any speaker or anyone selling or servicing a product or a service, the first lesson you've got to know in any kind of brand is know your audience, know your client. That's the first thing, okay? But a comedian once said to me, you've got to know number two, and it's just as important. Know the temperature of the room. Now, if you've got a bad comedian goes on and he sucks, then the person that follows him's got to get everyone back up to just normal before they can escalate him. In today's world, we're suspicious, We're cynical. We're skeptical. We're now in a political year as well, an election year. So we're going to be fed all the shit that all the media wants to give us. And we're going to be like, I don't trust anyone. Fake news this, fake news that. We're not going to trust stuff. But you know what gets through that shit? Clarity. You know, if you want this, do this. If you've got this problem, I can help with this solution. You know, less words, more direct, breed clarity.
Love it. Absolutely love it. And listen, audience, if you're just tuning in, today's show is about grabbing attention through clarity, like Steve was talking about. But listen, if you got questions for Steve, put them in the chat. If you don't, that's okay, because I can go on. We only have a few more minutes, but I can go on for hours with Steve. If you have questions, put them in there and we'll get a chance to get to them. But, you know, there's one thing as I was reading up on you, Steve, that I found fascinating. And, you know, you have a company or community called Sims Distillery. And at first I thought that Steve was brewing some moonshine out there in California. Turns out it's not, but put in hashtag audience, distill it down, because this little topic right here. Steve's going to explain it for a second. Steve, tell us, what does it mean to distill it down?
So I like drinking an old fashioned, and I do these masterminds all over America called Speakeasy Masterminds. And we decided that we needed to put a community together. So we were trying to work out a good name. And a friend of mine actually said it needs to be a distillery. And I had the same response to you. I was like, no. I don't want to provide alcohol. You know, I'm not an alcoholic, you know. And he went, no. Have you ever looked up what a distillery does? And it takes all the raw grains and ingredients and then distills them down to be 100% proof. 100% plus effective. And I thought that's really good. And as human beings, we're getting all of this crap and shit and everything coming at us. What if we got to distill ourselves down to just have a refined purpose, have a refined impact? So we built Sims Distillery to distill you down to the perfection you can be. And really, that's what our whole focus is, the community, and to get you to do things differently, disrupt the way you think, act, behave, so as to really get down to the primary of what you're all about. And it's been a great deal of fun, but you will be amazed at how many people still come up to us and go, what is it, vodka or whiskey? And who knows, maybe one day in the year there will be a Sims whiskey or something, I don't know, but not at the moment.
Listen, well, that's Steve, that's the beauty of building a brand, right? You build a strong brand, but you could sell anything through it, right?
There you go. There you go.
Well, listen, so one of the things I was looking at when I was on Sims Distillery, and by the way, you know, Steve, we were talking about before we went on the show about masterminds and, you know, what they've become and what they actually should be. And Steve, he's owning the word distill. And I love that about his brand. He's owning that because it means something more than just what you think it is. But on your webpage, I was looking at it. You talk a lot about the right people. Now, when I started out, I was a solopreneur. I'm like, I don't want to deal with people. I want to make all the decisions. I want control. I want creative control. Like, I wanted to run my business, and I didn't want people slowing me down. But what I learned was actually I can go farther with people. But you talk about right people. Tell us about what it means to have the right people in your life.
So if I said to you, phone up 10 people that you hate, okay, you would probably come up with any bloody excuse you could to not phone all 10 people. And you certainly wouldn't be able to phone them all up in one day because you would be drained of that energy. But if I said to you, phone 10 people you love, I don't think you'd be able to get past the third phone call because you'd end up staying on the phone with them for so long. But at the end of the day, you'll be energized. So when people say, oh, I hate working with people, that's because you're dealing with the wrong people. There's a real kind of method out there. It's terrible that we get the clients we get, not the clients we want. So when you focus on the people first, not that checkbook, not what they're going to pay, but if you focus on the person, you end up dealing with people you want to deal with. And then you can just do that on and on again. I was saying to you right at the beginning, we turned down 60% of the applicants that we got for Sims Distillery. A ridiculous amount of people that we turned down. And we could have made so much money from them, but we would have made the community toxic. We would have ruined the community by bringing people in that quite rightly shouldn't be there. So we focus on the right people in order to grow, challenge, communicate, and connect so that we can both be better as a group than as a single person. So if you are sat there going, oh, I hate people, that's probably because you're not hanging around with the right people.
Yeah, absolutely. I found that to be true in my life at first. By the way, the right people, I'm going to put in a little kind of twist on that. When I first started out, I was trying to grab attention. I was trying to grab notoriety. I was trying to grab whatever I could by aligning myself with the people that were already making things happen. But here's the thing. They weren't my people and I wasn't their people. And it didn't work. There was no meshing. There was no dovetailing there. As soon as I let that nonsense go and I'm just who I am, and the attraction kicks in. And it's so much easier when you attract somebody who just goes, I like you, you like me, we're talking the same language, we're the same people. All of a sudden, great things happen. And that's what we're talking about here. But I want to get to a question. Yolanda, a longtime show supporter, has a question for you, Steve. She's probably an introvert like me and you, but yet here we are talking a lot. And she says, how do you psych yourself up to go in front of an audience or talk to an important person like Elton or Alon? How do you psych yourself up being an introvert?
Let's do the last one first. How do I psych myself up to speak to an important person? I don't. I speak to a person. The second you put them onto a pedestal, they're no longer your equal. You've now put them up, and you can't be on a level playing field if the first thing you do is stick them 10 foot higher than you. So when I'm chatting with Elon Musk, when I'm chatting with Elton John, when I'm chatting with the most powerful people over the planet that you've never heard of, I'm talking to a person, Hey, how you doing? How's your morning going? Things like this. Everyone's got a morning, Everyone's got to get where they're going. How you doing? How was the traveling today? I've never been to this country. Is the travel bad? I live in LA. The traffic's shit. What about yours? Talk to a person about real person questions and conversations, and you'll be surprised. Here's one of the things that I found absolutely surprising and was really lucky for me. The amount of times that powerful people turned around to me and they said, the funny thing is, we have a conversation. And I'm like, yeah, we do. Where's this going? He said, all day long, I have words. That's sucking up to their boss. They want something. But you and me, we have a conversation. We tell inappropriate jokes, you buy the beer, we just have a conversation. The trouble is when you've got someone like Elon Musk, and look at Elon's background. He was poor. His mum had him sleeping in a one-bedroom apartment. They didn't have money. They didn't come from money. So they spent more time knowing that kind of life than the kind of life he's got now. But you instantly talk to these kind of people and you look up and you bow and like, oh, Elon, you're so wonderful. He's a person that's brilliant at certain things, but he's still a person. And so we don't communicate. So don't psych up. Don't overthink it. Don't concern yourself. Try and relate to the person behind the name. Okay? Because you talk about branding, most of the time people give these people brands and you assume, oh, Elton John must be like this. Oh, Brad Pitt must be like this. Oh, Tom Cruise must be like, you don't know.
Yeah.
And so you end up confronting them with the preconceived image that you have them rather than going, hey, I really like, how did you do that? How's your morning going? Just ask someone that and it really throws them off.
Yeah, I got to tell you. So, when I talked about as a younger guy, I thought everybody was better than me. And I don't think that anymore, but I don't think I'm better than anybody else either. And I really love that you're saying, you don't look at them as important people or famous people. You look at them as people. And as a mentor of mine used to say, he's like, Rob, you just need to be normal. So what he was saying was normal. What's normal for Rob? What's normal for Steve? Be yourself. And look, if you're yourself, they'll more likely want to be able to talk to you anyway. If you try to put on and you try and fawn all over them or you try and get what they've got, they don't want to talk to you anyway. So I appreciate that. That's really great advice. Yolanda, I'm gonna give Yolanda a quick tip on how to be able to communicate with Elon Musk or Elton John. And I'm going to tell you how to do it, and you should do it today. Go into a coffee shop and strike up a conversation with someone. Get used to striking up conversations with people that you don't know. You have no idea what they're like. Just comment on their shoes, comment about the weather, comment about their outfit, whatever. Strike up a conversation. Try to learn how to communicate and connect and relate to someone that you don't know
so that when you are in that situation, whether it be the head of the PTA, whether it be the head of your local government, whether it be a podcast host, whatever it is, if you can get used to having those just random conversations, when you have the conversation that counts, you are built, you are ready, you have been trained. That's what you got to do.
Yeah, absolutely. 100% great advice. And be yourself. All right, for sure. Well, thank you, Steve. Now, Steve, audience, listen, this is good stuff. And time has flown by, and we got to wind it down right now. And Yolanda, thanks you, Steve, for that great answer. But we got to wind it down. Steve's got an offer for everybody. So, Steve, why don't you tell us about the offer that you got here for everybody?
So it's already been plugged, so it's not a plug, but I wrote this book, Go for Stupid, and then I did an audio book, but instead of doing it in a room just on audio, I videoed it because I didn't want to be in a little audio box, which meant that I ended up with all chapters recorded on video. So if you head over to goforstupid.com, we put them up there for free. So head over to goforstupid.com and you can watch me read my entire book in a studio for free. A friend of mine said if you stick it on 1.5 times speed, you can get through the whole book in 2 hours. So there you go. Do something with it.
That is awesome. Thank you, Steve, so much for coming by. We unfortunately got to say goodbye right now. Audience, thank you all for coming. Steve, you have a good day. We're going to talk soon because I got to hear more about what you got going on. But just hang out for a second. I want to talk after we're done with the show. All right. Listen, everybody. That was fast, furious, and you know what? Raw. Those are the things that we reveal here on the Master Connector Show that we want you to leave with. Okay, so tune in next time because we are going to be coming at you every week with more great guests like Steve Sims. And next week we have January 31st, we have the 6 degrees of connectedness with Terry Bean. Don't miss this. As you heard Steve talking about connecting with people and his advice to Yolanda, it's not just about being able to talk at people. It's about connecting with people. That's why Steve is really successful at what he does because he's learned how to connect. And for all upcoming episodes, make sure you go to masterconnector.show. We got a list of all the upcoming episodes and the guests. You don't want to miss any of these because I'm telling you something. I hope you're getting value out of this. We love having you here. You're welcome, Yolanda, and everybody else who's watching this on the replay. Thank you, for coming by. But listen, this is the Master Connector Show. We operate in 4 pillars here. We operate on having the grit to overcome obstacles. You've got to have grit. Great book by Angela Duckworth called Grit. Tenacity to overcome the obstacles because no matter where you're going, there's going to be something in your way. Number 2 pillar, being others focused. You've got to focus on other people and helping them and adding value, paying it forward. Because when you help enough other people, you will get what you need out of life. Number 3, be authentic, be real. I hope you got that from today's episode for sure. Because look, Steve is himself. You either like him or you don't like him. I'm myself. You either like me or you don't. Be yourself. Half the people aren't going to like you anyway, so don't worry about it. And pillar number 4, build a community and grow your connections. We want you all to be able to grow your connections so that you can achieve what you want through life. Steve talked about it. Having the right people in your life, it is what you're going to need in order to move forward. So thank you all for coming. Get out there. Be the light for people, which means what? You got to be light. You got to show the way. As John Maxwell said, great leaders, they know the way, they go the way, and they show the way. So be the light for everybody. Thank you for coming. We'll see you next time.
And you start to hear some of their challenges. And yes,
because it speaks to the core of who you are and what drives you forward. Because what makes you different is what drives you.